Now, back in December 2021, the week just before we finished for the Christmas holidays, I crashed my van. Well, I say I crashed my van. Basically what I did was I scraped the rear passenger side of the van on the post in the car park at the training centre. It still cost me a lot of money to get it fixed though. But the week before Christmas, well, last year now, because we're in January, so Christmas 2022, I've gone and crashed my van again. Now in 2021, it was definitely my fault. Is 2022 my fault? Well, let's get on with it and let's see the crash happen. Now I'm driving down Dowson Road towards Hyde Town Centre, taking Will to his football training, and I'm just reaching Waverley Road.
Oh! What was that? What the f was that?
Now that's what the crash looked like from the windscreen, the dash cam in the windscreen. Now before you blame me, let's have a look and see what we were doing inside the cab.
Oh! What was that?
Now from the footage going inside the cab, you can see I was just driving down the road. We had a bit of Paul McCartney playing Busy Having a Wonderful Christmas Time, and was we? Definitely not. And Will was putting his football boots on. Told him a million times, don't put your football boots on while we're in the van. Luckily enough, things seriously didn't happen to me or Will when we were driving and we had this little crash. So what happened then? Now if you look closely at the central reservation, you'll see in a minute. Did you see it? Well, it was virtually invisible because somebody had knocked the fluorescent sign off this part of the central reservation. So that's why we hit it. Now this is what the central reservation looks like in broad daylight with the fluorescent sign actually attached to it. And you can see it's got quite a few battle scars around the base of this central reservation. Now this is 3 weeks later after the council have replaced the fluorescent sign. So can you see easily now? Well, it is a lot easier to see because it was pretty damn invisible when I hit it. So after a quick inspection to look at the damage and see if I still had a spoiler on the front, I decided it was too dangerous to change the spare wheel where I was. And I know the area really well because I lived in that area for 11 years. I decided I would change the wheel actually on the forecourt of the Shell garage just down the road. Now we did all of about 5 miles an hour, so I apologise to all those cars who got stuck behind us while we were limping to the forecourt of the Shell garage. So after we'd pulled over at the petrol station, I phoned my wife up, who came to pick Will up and take him to his football training. And she left me all on my own, so I had to phone for the cavalry. Now the reason why I had to send for Tom, the cavalry, isn't because I'm useless and I can't take a wheel off, or I don't want to get my hands dirty. It was basically, didn't have the tools to take the wheel off. So this is the standard wheel brace you get with a Ford Transit Custom. For one, it didn't fit in the holes. And for two, this is just nut off the stud from inside there. And you can see it fits quite far in. And it's too small. So this is too big and you can see it just twists round. So I had to ring Tom up because he's got all the gear to be able to take these fancy alloy wheels off. Now this requires a 19mm socket to be able to go on to the stud and go inside the hole of the alloy wheel. So they're not a standard socket. So Tom came along with this. But I was in Lidl yesterday and they've got this little set. £10, well £9.99 it was, and it's got a 17, a 19 and a 21 millimeter socket, which even the 21mm one goes inside the wheel opening to be able to get the nut off. So this can just live in the van now. I do need to go and buy myself a strong arm socket, or I could use an impactor or whatever to be able to get it off, but I've got the sockets to be able to do the job now, because this really is useless. And I never really thought of that. When I had these fancy wheels put on my van, I didn't really think I might have to take them off in an emergency. So if you haven't got breakdown cover, you might not be able to take your wheels off when you've got a puncture. So just bear that in mind. If you've got these fancy wheels on your Ford Transit or any van, make sure you've got the right tools in the van to be able to get the nuts off the studs so you can take the wheel off. The other problem we had as well was jacking it up with the spoiler kit on. Anyway, lesson learned. So big thanks to my son Tom for coming and saving his old man from a disaster, even though he'd been working all day putting in boilers and he'd only just got through the door when I phoned him. So cheers son, you're my hero. Now let's have a look at the damage of the wheel. So obviously this is the inside of the wheel, you can't see much on the outside, but you can see, hopefully you can see this massive big dint here. And on this side here, it's ovaled. There's also a couple of dints here where the van landed back down on the road after we hit the central reservation. And there's also a couple of the holes are damaged where the studs go through. So this wheel is a complete write-off, so I've had to buy a new set. So it cost me just under £1,000 for 4 new wheels and 4 new tyres. But I do prefer these wheels to the others anyway. Now, I would just like to thank James and Jeff from Paul Symes Tyres on Boston Street in Hyde. I used to live on Boston Street when I first got married. Anyway, because I took my very poorly sick van to them and they sorted out all the problems for me. So thanks guys, you did an amazing job. They even had to track the wheels at the front because they were that far out of a line after hitting the central reservation. So what have I learned from this video and what should you learn from this video? Now the first one is always have a dash cam. That is a must nowadays. You must. If you're driving around without a dash cam, then anything like this, what happens, you've got proof to give to the local authorities to get it sorted out. Now we had to, my wife phoned the police after this accident because there were a lot of cars that nearly hit that central reservation and they got the council out straight away and they put a couple of cones on it. And when I went past it the day after, one of the cones had been nicked. And then it took them a week or so then to get the new fluorescent sign thing on. The other thing is, make sure you've got the correct tools on your van to be able to take the wheels off. Because if you haven't got it, you're going to be stranded. And especially if you haven't got breakdown cover, which you should have. And I do have breakdown cover, but it was just changing the wheel to get home and I only around the corner from where I live. Now, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully you've learnt something. Hopefully you're going to carry all the tools and equipment for changing your wheels. Hopefully I will catch you on the next one, guys. Cheers.